about yourself, Kevin. What's what are you working on? What's your history at Weber State?
So, I've been involved with Weber State since I was a young boy. But anyway, I graduated here when we had this incredible School of Finance. I was an art major originally here, Water School of Art. But anyway, I've been involved back and forth through school since I was 18 years old. Actually, before that, I was one of those guys that got into some classes when I was 15, 16 years old, back in those days. But so, in 2000, Weber State had this elite, in the 90s, in the 80s and the 90s, we had this elite business school, the Water School of Business. It was finance. We had a legendary finance professor named Clyde Cooley. And Clyde Cooley, that's how we got our MBA. Well, I was working on Wall Street at the time, had my plastering business, and I said, well, I want to come home and get the first MBA from Weber, from Clyde. It'll be that powerful. So I came home right in 99. We got our new MBA program here through the state legislature. #1 undergraduate program in the country via the testing 9 years in a row. Well, Clyde Cooley got BSE in his brain in August that year, and it killed him, and he dropped dead. And so they were panicking over there, and a guy named Kyle Madsen stepped in. He'd come back from the University of Syracuse and wanted to run it, and he asked me, he says, well, I says, I don't have an MBA. He says, well, you're going to have to teach it. You're his protege. So I basically helped Kyle run that program from 2000 to 2005, and then he got lung cancer and died. But I've basically been fighting the nuclear industry my whole life. And, of course, when Fukushima happened, shortly thereafter, I got leukemia. And that's what really took this into earnest. I was given 2 months to live I went into the bone marrow transplant at LDS Hospital on 11/11/11. Given 3/11s, think about that. Given 2 months to live. And so a lot of this activism, this fight of mine's been to stay alive. So
what got you into what initially happened that got you into fighting like the nuclear industry?
Well, I grew up here in Ogden, Utah, and Utah was this environmentalist fighters, probably the capital of the country. I mean, when I was a boy here in the 60s, and this was Weber State University, which was built up by the nuclear industry. The Wattises built the reactors at Fukushima, Japan. They built them as Utah Construction. It was GE, it's Ford Construction. So the counterculturists were all here at Ogden, Weber State. And so I grew up in that culture with these legendary, incredible counterculturists, activists, anti-nuclears, which was very contemporary in Ogden, Utah, And so I pretty well grew up in it, and I learned at a very young age. And then my father was Dwayne Blanch, pretty famous guy in Utah. Our bloodlines are way deep in Ogden. Dr. Blanch, and so he was one of the, what we call atomic vets. He was a human lab rat in the Nevada test site. He was a Marine, drafted Marine, by the way. And it killed him. Later, he got leukemia and died. And so that sent my activism to a whole other world.
So it was kind of like common knowledge back then that the Wattis, the Wattises, they had, they were all over the
Utah construction, yeah.
They had
very
their
common
fingers
knowledge.
Deep into the nuclear energy game.
Ogden, Utah, I'm old enough. Ogden, Utah was an infamous boom town, and the Eccles. I mean, come on, the Federal Reserve's named the Mariner Eccles Federal Reserve. I knew Mariner personally. And Abraham Hunsaker IV, my grandpa. So I was connected in all these families. And so everybody knew who the Brownies and the Eccles and the Wattises were. They are General Electric today. And so I don't know what happened, but for instance, in the early 80s, our governor was a guy named Scott Matheson, real famous anti-nuclear. He was the governor. And he was a downwinder. He died while he was in office of AML leukemia, just what I have, at 51 years old. That was in 1982-ish, 3-ish. Very common knowledge, not just here, in the state of Utah. This state was vicious, fierce anti-nuclears because of the 350 open-air tests that were unleashed on us. Mm-hmm. And the incident of cancer went psycho here. We call them downwinders. It was taught here. Professors knew. I mean, this was the old Weber State. I mean, this is the counterculturist rebel university, one of the great rebel universities in the country. You should have seen these. It was a small boutique university with lots of radicals, and they promoted them. They loved them.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand about Weber State, is that it was like that. A big counterculture hub, if you will.
Oh, you should have seen it. Well, for instance, I'll tell you the history of the Stewart Library. So, there's a lot of people that, even his son, thinks that D.B. Cooper was the ROTC professor here. He used to hang out with him. It's pretty compelling evidence that's who he was.
Whose son?
This is the son says this about D.B. Cooper. He's the famous guy who hijacked the plane. Blah blah. He was a professor here.
D.B. Cooper.
He hijacked the plane and jumped. It was a real famous story in the 70s. Nobody to this day proved who he was. Well, it's pretty compelling evidence that he was an ROTC professor at Weber State. Melvin Dumar, who just passed away, forged the Howard Hughes will in the library there. Edward Abbey hung around this library. Of course, this is the home of Fawn McKay Brody, the greatest rebel activist who ever lived, the greatest female writer, 17-year-old professor at this university. So Ogden had this history, this incredible, compelling history.
Right.
And so, and I was one of those kids that I was supposedly autistic, which I wasn't. I was Asperger or whatever, I was a mutant anyway, so I had this big brain. I sucked up everything. And so I remember the first rally I went to was an anti-nuclear peace rally when I was 8. It was at this university. I had 2 real beautiful 1960s girls, freaking aunties, and they brought me. Whoa. There's pictures up in the library of that rally.
They were anti-nuclear?
It was anti-nuclear peace movement and an anti-nuclear energy rally right here. We were saying 1968. And because they all knew the Wattises were the nuclear industry. E.O. Wattis died of leukemia 3 days after they got the contract to build Hoover Dam. Well, the Wattises built the reactors at Fukushima, Japan. This is important. The reason I came home from California, I've been in La Jolla fighting, I've been all over fighting. I wanted to come home for this right here. I says, I want to do the March 11th 8th anniversary at KWER Weber State. And I want to record it because I'm going to do Rentz's show tomorrow, it looks like. He has a giant audience. I want to post the link. It's important that I do it here because they are who built the reactors at Fukushima, Japan, which is General Electric now. Utah Construction, Water Construction is General Electric now. And everybody thinks General Electric bought them? No, it's the opposite. Utah Construction bought General Electric in 1975. Made billionaires all over this place. And it's called Fluor. the biggest industrial contractor on earth, was started right here where we're sitting. Well, they got sued in the 70s for cheating on the reactor at Fukushima. Well, it's a Mach 1, Mach 2, which that's the same reactors. There's 40 of them here. General Electric, some whistleblowers came forward in the 70s, says they cheated, and went to court, blah, blah, blah. They lost. They were found guilty of cheating. And so, of course, we have what we call Price-Anderson, which is a congressional act in 1953, which allows, it was a congressional act to prop up the nuclear industry. It's still there. What it says, you can't sue these monsters, which is, it's insane.
That's kind of goes back to kind of how corporations are. They're seen as like individuals, and they have the rights of individuals.
We were talking about this earlier about corporatism and militarism.
Yeah.
We're having this debate now in the state of Utah between capitalism and socialism and communism. But let's get real. This sure isn't capitalism we live in. We redistribute more wealth than anybody in the history of mankind. Where does it go? It's corporatism. It's militarism. Sure ain't capitalism. It's a matter of where the redistribution of wealth goes. So, we got to hypnotize populists. But my line is, it's the ecology, stupid. When Fukushima happened, it changed everything for me. It changed my whole life. And so, it changed everybody's. This is real important here, too. I want to make sure everyone knows this and I talk about this. Because, we had the Olympic downhill right here. Ogden was a big piece. Weber State was a big piece of the 2002 Olympics. Ann Milner was the president there. We're going to build a gondola here to Weber State, and then up the front side of the Olympic downhill with Snow Basin. She's the one that shot it down, which she was a horrible president. We had lots of corrupt presidents around. This white guy that was before was the most corrupt president we ever had. And so a lot of corruption's happened at Weber State in the last 20 years. So the 2020 Japanese Games, they're going to start the torch relay in Fukushima. And they're saying they're going to use recycled Fukushima FEMA camps, which are the little thing they put everybody in, for the torches. Well, the most famous athlete probably Olympic athlete in Japanese history is an 18-year-old woman right now who broke multiple records at the Asian Games. She was, this year, she won the Asian Olympics this year. Athlete, not just the swimmer, the athlete, broke multiple records. She's the poster child. She's all over the Fukushima the Japan Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, and we've been trying to organize a boycott. Now, I'm trying to get in Ed Eyestone's ear. This is a famous track university. I used to run track against Ed. He's the Olympic coach at BYU. He's the coach at BYU now. These athletes shouldn't go. Well, lo and behold, she starts not feeling good a month ago. This is just recent. This is recent news. It was announced to the world just the last few days. She has leukemia.
So you think they shouldn't go because of the radiation?
Yes. Well, not even radiation. That's another thing that people have a flaw with. They've got this stigma in their head about so-called radiation. Mm-hmm. Radiation's a big, broad term. Now, what I say is coming off Fukushima, and I've been saying the whole time, and you can watch the 60 Minutes piece in November. Lake Barrett, who I know personally, Leslie Stahl did it and let the cat out of the bag, says, this has never happened. We don't know what it is. We've been pushing in the ocean the whole time, which we've genocided the ocean. That's my work. I've been down there documenting dying tadpoles, dying salmon. And the salmon collapse is the smoking gun. Because the salmon collapse, they had record returns on the Columbia in 2016. As I say, we don't count dead tadpoles. Oh, I do. We don't count dead humans in leukemia. Oh, I do. I was almost one of them. We don't count, but we count salmon. Every salmon comes home. They live in the Pacific Ocean. Record escapement. We had record returns on the ship salmon in 2015. They go to sea for 5 years. Nobody predicted this collapse but me. And it's an epic collapse. And they're dying in the ocean. And they're saying scientists are mystified, they're baffled, they're puzzled, that don't get it in the science world.
So for those that don't really because there's probably a lot of people that actually don't really know what even happened at Fukushima. Would you be able to give us
I'll give you a quick synopsis.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I was protesting at the Energy Solutions dump site the day that it happened. I was protesting the Italian waste coming in there. Now, by the way, we're going to bring NuScale, and Utah just legislated passed to bring 700,000 tons. That's right, tons of depleted uranium. Our insane legislator with no resistance just passed it. So I get home, and that's when I still had a television before I threw it out. And
you threw out your television?
Yeah, I finally got wise right after that. And
why'd you do that?
Well, basically, Fukushima was the crowning jewel. I got sick of watching advertising, blah, 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 blah. So the cover-up of Fukushima was the final end. I always say, if you don't believe they lie, Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. George Bush won the 2000 election. Pat Tillman fought off 9 million Al-Qaeda. It's just one lie after another. But so I got home, and we have a live cam in the China Sea. And, we fought for that for decades. Activists all over the world fought for that.
A live cam?
There's a live cam on a barge out there because we had all said that if this nuclear meltdown was going to happen, it was going to happen in Fukushima, Japan. Or it was going to happen in Diablo Canyon or Sinanofre in California.
You've been calling that Fukushima was... It was only a matter of time.
Yes. Tick-tock. My line used to be in my class here, tick-tock, Diablo Canyon clock. Because Mach 1, Mach 2, build on the freaking ring of fire. They can only handle about a 7.5 quake, and it's not the tsunami that swapped them out. It's the core. And so when the core fractured, it was a 9-point core. I knew the core fraction. So that madness is released into the atmosphere.
So let's get this straight. There was a 9-point, what was it?
8 point.
9 point.
9 point something.
9 point something earthquake that happened in the ocean.
Right. And so everybody thinks it's the tsunami, which the tsunami was catastrophic.
That triggered the tsunami in 2004, I think?
No. This is 2011.
2011.
Okay. The anniversary today, 8 years ago today.
Right.
Okay.
You're thinking about the other one that happened over there in Jakarta,
right,
in Indonesia, which was devastating. That was in 2004-05.
Banda Aceh,
Yeah. That was devastating. Oh. And so, anyway, this quake happened in the afternoon. The sirens went off, went crazy, and the live cams, CNN, without being able to circle the wagons, throws the pictures up from the live cam on CNN, on Fox News, everything, and you could see the reactors blowing up. Literally blowing to smithereens. So I saw that, and I'm like...
So they blew up before the tsunami even hit?
Yes. Huh. And so they blew up, and then... blew to smithereens, and I knew multiple reactors, and I started going crazy. I did a video right here by the pond, You know, and famous video that day. Uploaded here at Weber.
So the timing was first the earthquake, then the blowing of the reactors, and then the tsunami came.
Then the tsunami come out and swamped out the cooling generators. And so the cooling generators have to cool the spent fuel pools.
Right.
And so the spent fuel pools, but those spent fuel pools, we know, everybody says, oh, 4 tips. They blew up because the spent fuel pools cracked immediately on the earthquake. Well, what happens when a spent fuel pool cracks where they store? The water runs off of it, and they go into what we call fission. They melt together. It's just as bad as a reactor. And that's what happened in all of them. All of them. And there were 7 reactors there. And so we know for a fact that 3 of them, it took me a year and a half to convince anybody it was one meltdown. These professors up here used to laugh at me. I said, you out of your mind? You see these pictures? This thing blew to smithereens. And so what happened, the first 6 days, the wind was blowing out over us. So we know it hit right here in Utah harder than anyone. We have the mapping, and I'm going crazy about it. It's going to give you a camera standing by the pond doing videos going nuts. I'm like, what does it matter? This is Meltdowns. It's coming over us. And, you know, they circled the wagons, and then people were leaking stuff to me about different readings. I was up here at the science building when RadNet, which is the radiation detection network of the country, they came and pulled the dishes out of Weber State. The feds did. I videoed them. Put the video up on YouTube, and they took it down.
We pulled the dishes?
The dishes. So we have RadNet, which is a radiation detection network all over this country for this said reason. Well, Obama, Gina McCarthy was head of EPA. Obama and EPA immediately crashed RadNet. They took them all down. They took it offline. You couldn't watch it online. So the cover-up started immediately. So now, inside the Situation Room, somebody leaked me the transcript. What happened? Because I'm involved in the U.S. Reagan case, blah, 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 blah. Everybody lied. So I have it. But now I can talk about it.
So what was in that script?
So John Holden was head of the science and technology team. So John Holden, I'm the one that put this girl up to the interview. And she did an interview. She was just going psycho on Trump, which Trump's the same as Obama. They're pro-nuclear puppets, you know. And so anyway, the whole thesis has been they didn't know. They sent the U.S. and Reagan in, radiated their own guys. They didn't know. So she tricked him in this interview. It's a new interview. And she says, well, I put her up to it. She says, what about when Fukushima happened? He's asking about Trump questions. He's a professor at Harvard now. He says, well, at 3:43 p.m., March 11th, inside the Situation, we were all in there. John Holdren, Jeff Immelt, GE, back to Utah, Jeff Immelt, GE. What was he doing there? The CEO of General Electric. Abe was beamed in there, the Prime Minister of Japan, blah, 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 blah. So now they're admitting that at 3:43 p.m., they knew they were meltdowns. Then he says, I went home, they called me back at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, wanted to know if they could send the Reagan in. And Cartwright, who was the Joint Chief of Staff going to be, the one that got indicted, the 5-star Marine, the Navy admiral's fighting with him. No, you'll radiate your own men, blah, blah, blah. He says, make it so. So they radiated their men knowingly, just like they did my dad. But back to when it happened, they went into immediate cover-up mode, not to protect the economy, to protect the nuclear industry. And let's remember, Barack Obama was put in office. Hillary Clinton was running attack ads in him in the 2008 campaign, saying he's propped up by Exelon, the pro-nuclear industry. Axelrod comes out of that industry. So does Rahm Emanuel. Blah, blah. And it's the same thing with Trump. So they just went into cover-up mode. And then, thought they could, secretly have their nanotechnology, Idaho National Lab, Livermore, all these guys in there. And it didn't work. And it got out of hand. And it blew up again on, I have videos of it blowing up again on June 14th, 2011. Then it blew up again in 2013. Then it blew up again in 2014.
Which reactor was blowing up? All 3 were blowing up?
More than 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
And 5 and 6 probably went too. They're experimental and 7.
How many reactors did they?
7.
7 reactors.
Total of 7.
So here's the scam of the nuclear industry. It's like San Onofre. I'm the guy that got shut down. I'm the guy that leaked all that stuff when they were cheating. I leaked that. I was in the bone marrow transplant, dying of leukemia, and everybody knows. He says, "Look at this. They're cheating. They had." By the way, speaking of nuclear waste coming to Utah, the San Onofre generator, who had an accident in January of 2012, they were lying and cheating. I'm the one that leaked that out to the media from some guys inside there. Sent me some videos in there. The reactor, guess where it's buried? And it's hotter than hot. in Utah in the energy solution dump site illegally because it's thousands of times over the state legal limits.
So the confinement is here in Utah, that reactor?
The generator from the San Onofre it's in the energy solutions dump site. They built a special truck and tractor here. We went out there with Geiger counters. I was full of cancer then, me and a neurosurgeon.
And that's what the energy solutions is about. Confinement.
Well,
radiation stuff.
Is that like their main?
Sure.
That's their main.
Sure, and they'll say, "Well, Kevin, we don't make it. We're trying to deal with it." But the problem is they cheat. So they're cheaters and always have been cheaters, and that's the problem. We have state laws, low level, and so they violate these laws. So that's what the legislator just passed. This says, "Oh, it's low level." No, it's not low level. That's the thing. This is depleted uranium they're going to bring here, and now they're going to bring a little nuclear reactor. And where's the resistance? For instance, I'll tell you how derelict Weber State is, and I'm so disgusted. I can't tell you how disgusted I am. Let's make sure this thing's still going. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you how disgusted I am with Weber State University. Here I did so much for this university for so long. Saved their freaking... You could go ask Mike Vaughn, you don't believe me. They didn't cover my insurance because I was not a tenured professor. My bill was $1.8 million. I had about $1 million when I got sick. I forked it all over. It broke me. And I'm tied to the hospital. I've used this as my hub, the Stewart Library. So, the Enola Gay flew out of Utah. Wendover.
That's the plane, right?
That's where it flew out. They dropped it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Dropped the nuclear bomb.
Yeah, the nuclear bomb.
It flew out of Utah. So, Jim and myself, I'm on the committees out there. Jim's the guy who's been restoring that old dumpy hangar forever. Now, I met this girl in Las Vegas. She was a Ukrainian girl that ended up going to school at Weber State. Her name was Annika. In the 90s. One of the first Ukrainian girls who ever got into the United States. And I learned a lot from her because of Chernobyl and the cover-up of Chernobyl. And her and I used to do a lot of work out there at the reactor. She died of leukemia in 99. Oh, wow. But anyway... So, finally, Folding Paper Cranes, the famous book about the 11-year-old who got cancer after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's called Folding. She folded 1,000 paper cranes while she was dying of leukemia. So, the first time in history, Japan has reached out, the people, to the United States to make peace over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, where do they come? The Enola Gay hangar in Utah. Year and a half ago. I'm there. I'm invited. International media from all over the world. So I got to hold one of her paper cranes she folded in my hand. I was the second person that got to hold it. There's one of them in that museum now. They presented it to us. Her niece and nephew. She was only 11 when she died. So media all over me. So they had 3 fans they had recycled from folded paper cranes at the Hiroshima Nagasaki vigil. They only awarded 3. They awarded me one of them. Would you think that'd be a big story here? No Weber State professors, not history, not science, no BYU, no University of Utah. And here Weber State is the countercultures, which we are the nuclear industry here. Let's not kid ourselves. The science department, Tracy Hall was my 8th grade history teacher at Walkwest Junior High. The building's named after him. He was a gem, by the way. He wouldn't have went for this. So this ties back into the Olympic athlete. She was 10 years old when Fukushima happened. This is new. This is a major, major story. I got in an argument with a bunch of kids here because we have a study abroad program, and the Japanese woman, I says, really, you're taking those kids over to that part of Japan? No. And by the way, so now this the most famous Olympic young athlete in Japan history has leukemia. You think that's a coincidence? Oh no. And this whole thing that radiation does not cause cancer? What are you teaching in this? It's like Dr. Burroughs, me and him was talking the other day. Well, they're getting better. No, they're not getting better. What are you talking about? So I'm in the bone marrow transplant at LDS Hospital dying. I'm in there. That's a guy named Fimbo Peterson. It's the #1 bone marrow transplant unit in the world. This guy from Denmark runs it. It's Danish philosophy of medicine. Any given day, because I'm in there all the time, over half the people in that unit are from southern Utah. So downwinders, we're teaching it in past tense when the half-life's hundreds of thousands of years, and now we're going to bring more waste to Utah, and we don't make it, so we're going to be their toilet, and there's no resistance. Where's the resistance? Where's the professors?
It's going to become kind of a dumpster.
A toilet.
Yeah.
I call Utah, we are the new nuclear toilet. We're the outhouse. Why? Why? We have a cancer epidemic here anyway. And if you don't think nuclear fallout and cancer are correlated, you're stupid. You're ignorant. There's the Atomic Veterans Study proves it. All these studies prove it. You know, it's like, these people say it's like a banana. Yeah, right. Okay. You know, that's natural. That's a whole different animal. No, this is, and by the way, back to radiation, which I named it Fuktonium, F-U, which the energy that's coming off Fukushima, we don't know what it is. But my hypothesis was that it's going to break, it's going to kill the plankton and the feeders. It's just like the starfish died immediately after. Well, what do starfish eat? Starfish have collapsed. They collapsed in 2012. They're still dead. Starfish eat sea anemones and sea urchins. They're the first to go. They're plankton feeders. Whales washing up dead. So the ocean is collapsing. And like I said, the salmon is the smoking gun of Fukushima because they had record returns on the Columbia in 2015. Expected returns in 2016. And my hypothesis, I'm the guy that's been setting the numbers, and I've run all my regression and done all my work in the Stewart Library. My work's infamous, you know, as far as it goes now.
You have empirical evidence of all of this. Right?
Yes,
from spending time on.
Oh, that's all I've done. Eat, sleep, drink it. Right? And well, yeah, I mean, I've walked. When I got leukemia, I was too sick for a bone marrow transplant after they radiated. Well, not radiated, but they chemoed me out of it, and I wasn't recovering. And so Fimbo Peterson, we made the decision not to bone marrow transplant me, and I think everybody thought I would die. He kind of believed in me, but most of them thought I'd die. So I went to San Diego, well, the Mexican border, and I walked on the coast of California to San Francisco. I did it in 4 chunks actually. Try that one, not the Pacific Trail. Me and another kid named Astro. You can look up Astro and a guy named Rex. Rex was with Astro. Astro's a famous case. He was a young, aspiring nuclear physicist at Berkeley. He died on the trail.
He died on the trail?
Yeah.
What happened to him?
He was full of leukemia, just like me. And so that's why we did it. We found each other online. Rex wasn't. Rex kind of just came from New Orleans. This guy that lives up north now just to be with us. Everybody thought I died. So basically I'm like, well, I'm going to do my Ph.D. on my empirical evidence of the tide pools collapsing because nobody believed me. And I've got video. I have hundreds and hundreds of hours of video proving that they've collapsed and they have not come back. And so in science, and any stats professor, any scientist knows coincidence don't get it, number one. Bloom, Blob, they don't get it. You have to have empirical evidence. And so my empirical evidence has proven that it's Fukushima. So my hypothesis is energy coming off it called Fuktonium, which we don't even know what it is. It's a plasma, which we know for a fact that it's a plasma that it's releasing. It's a nuclear plasma. So we don't know what it is because it's never happened before. It never happened in Chernobyl. No. This is full blown out, not to mention MOX fuel. If anybody doesn't know what MOX fuel is nuclear waste that they throw oxygen to and go through a process to turn it into weapons grade.
Wow. Enhance
it. Number 3 was plumb full of MOX fuel that blew up. So they dumped water on it for 6 days. And then the jet stream switched over top of us. The jet stream was over top of us for the 6 days. It was going to ship over Tokyo. So they made the decision to dump water on it, push it into the ocean. Their 1,000 tanks is a fallacy. So...
Yeah, I've seen pictures of
Well, there's 33 million one-ton bags of scraped-up waste. 33 million. They're dumping those in the ocean. And so...
Wow.
So they've dumped in the ocean the entire time. And nobody believed me. And then here comes... I know Lake Barrett personally. He was the 3 Mile Island. By the way, they're trying to bail out 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania right now for $1 billion. This is how insane.
What is that?
That's the nuclear meltdown that happened in 1979. I got my 79 shirt on.
The NCAA.
That's real, by the way. You know who played in that championship game at the Huntsman Center? The John Huntsman, the luxury good of death. How about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That was that game. I was at that game. A bunch of us radio stations from Weber State. It's back when Weber State had great teams. This coach they have now is the best money mediocre can buy.
Well, I heard that Weber State, they made it